To all the parents with kids out there, beware, there is another video that's circulating, a secret video of a teacher, again embroiled in the craziness that is the modern age. But don't worry, we can educate our own kids. The institutions have been captured, but we can educate our own kids. Let's take a look at this little gem.
What's wrong with the website is that there are more than one gender in this country.
That's your opinion.
That is my opinion, and that is an opinion which is acceptable in the school. I'm afraid yours, which you're saying that there's no such thing as anyone other than male or female, is not inclusive.
Scientifically, there are just two genders, depending on what
I get
gender.
But you're choosing to make an issue of this, because I said, are you really going to hear? That was your opportunity to keep quiet.
You made the issue with it on the website. You said, oh, this website doesn't have more than two genders.
Murray, you were clearly given an opportunity not to pursue it. You chose to do so.
To anybody else out there who has kids that are at secondary school age, I've got a kid who is about to go into secondary school, and over the last year at least, I've had to make sure that she's been properly educated in the old-fashioned way. The institutions in this country have been ideologically captured in both the public sector and the private sector. Public sector, we're talking education, police, councils, NHS, government. They have all abandoned biological females at the altar of this ideology that puts them in danger. It's the private sector as well. Anybody who wants to speak out about this, you can't do so in your place of work. And what's remarkable to me is that the parents of this kid have obviously done what probably you, if you're watching this video, and me have done, which is take matters into our own hands and make sure facts are facts. I've got a clip from Germaine Greer that I'll play towards the end of the video just to let you know what it's like from the female's perspective with this batshit crazy stuff that's going on. But for now, let's take a look at this sellout teacher.
Yeah, because I think it's
You
silly.
chose to do so. Yes, that's the key question. You chose to do so.
I think it's silly to have anything other than two genders. So
Okay.
Anything else is a personal
Could you please
opinion.
keep that opinion to your own house? Thank you. Not in the
So
school.
you get to put your opinion out in class, and my
No,
opinion has to,
I am not.
My opinion has to stay
I
inside
am
my
not
house.
putting my opinion. I am not putting my opinion out. I am stating what is national school authority policy.
Here's a tip for you and something to tell your kids. Whenever somebody appeals to authority to make their case, the doctrine of because I said so, immediately be suspicious. This is what he does here. I am an authority and I said it's this, so therefore it's this. Now, kids are very impressionable. They trust the adults, which is why I'm saying that we need to get ahead of these institutions and teach our kids what's right. The term gender and sex was always synonymous. What the cult has done is to separate those two definitions and to sort of begrudgingly say, yeah, sex is immutable. Like, yeah, obviously you're born either a male or a female. But to be a man or a woman, well, that's gender. And that's something that you perform. This is performative. It's frustrating. It's nonsensical. It never used to exist. People say all the time, oh, well, it's completely omitted from all literature and culture prior to like 10 years ago. No, it isn't. It's been invented. This whole thing has been invented within the last 10 years. Yeah, okay, gender dysphoria has always existed. But to the extent that it exists now, it's like we're playing adult Santa Claus. You know, when your kids are still young enough to believe in Santa Claus and you do the whole Santa Claus thing. Oh, no, he's going to come down the chimney. Oh, you be a good girl and Father Christmas will come. Well, adult Santa Claus is... These people pretend that when these people change genders, that they are actually that is trans women are women. Yes, they are. Do you believe that? Do you believe that really, though?
Okay.
Well, it's not scientific whatsoever.
Not every policy is scientific, Brian. Not every policy is scientific, Murray.
And you can't come out here and say that I'm not being inclusive when someone says
I
something
didn't
you
say.
disagree with.
I said what you were saying was not being
You
inclusive.
kicked me out of class. If you want to have a discussion about it, we could have had a discussion. You don't have to kick me out of class.
I'm sorry.
Waste 30 minutes of my time, where I could have been down revising, doing something else. Instead, I state something I believe in. You kick me out of class for 30 minutes. I'm waiting on the
Take
court.
this somewhere else, Murray. You can make an official complaint.
I'm not
Please
going to
do.
make an official complaint.
Why not?
I just think it's...
I know what you think, and I know what the authority thinks. I know what the authority's point of view
Well, I know
is.
what
Very
science thinks.
very clear that we make no discrimination on the grounds of various...
I wasn't making discrimination. I'm simply saying there are two genders, male and female.
Yeah.
Anything else is a personal identification.
I'm sorry, but you chose to make an issue of making a point which is contrary to policy.
You
right?
made the issue when you complained about the website, sir.
Yes, and I made it in a way...
And I responded to that by saying, but there are only two genders. I never made the issue.
Okay, I am not going here. You can choose, but you're making bad choices.
I'm making bad choices, okay.
Well,
can I take my bag and go to the research area and start revising it?
you can stay here.
Okay, I'll stay here. Thanks for wasting my time.
Murray, I am not allowed to tell you how much of my time you have wasted.
Okay.
Sickening that he tells him there, the way he says, you're making bad choices. Have any of you ever tried challenging people that subscribe to this ideology with the damage that it's done to children, specifically the sterilisation of children? Now, in fairness to the UK, they have pretty much put a stop to this. But that's very recently. Up until very recently, and this still happens in the United States and Canada and other parts of the world, children that go onto puberty blockers inevitably then go onto cross-sex hormones. Why is that a problem? Why does it sterilise them? Here's why. And by the way, we're going to listen to Germaine Greer in a second. We're going to give her the last word. But another great feminist on this topic. I mean, when I say feminist, I mean the old-fashioned type that believe women don't have penises. They're hard to find these days. Helen Joyce wrote a book called Trans. Read it. Read it. It'll help you if you ever do have debates with people, to be able to give them tangible arguments rather than emotional ones, which is what they will come up with. And they're all just subscribing to what they have to believe in anyway. So it's not the same. They don't need really any depth to their beliefs, because they're just parroting the institutionally approved virtue signaling value or opinion. They don't have any depth or belief in it. But you, unfortunately, if you're going to be challenging people on this, you do need to have some depth and belief. Here is why this ideology leads to the sterilization of children. For the human body to be capable of reproduction, it needs to start the primary stages of puberty naturally. There are primary stages, there are secondary stages of puberty. For the boys, it's obviously different to the girls. Secondary stages of puberty are things like facial hair and a deeper voice if you're a man, and breasts and a higher pitched voice if you're a woman. If this boy or girl is put onto puberty blockers and it blocks that primary stage of puberty, and then they go on to cross-sex hormones, which a vast proportion of them do, they will never begin that primary stage of puberty. The body just skips it, and they go straight to the secondary stage of puberty where they grow the facial hair, etc., etc. When they get to the point in their life where it's appropriate for them to start thinking about having children, they won't be able to do it. That's what we mean when we talk about sterilizing kids. So it's not possible for people to be compassionate in this area. You're not being compassionate. Now, the UK has taken steps to stop this damage. And fair play to it for doing so, although we are still out of our minds like the rest of the Western world when it comes to the institutions. But at least when it comes to medicalizing and sterilizing children, the UK has now done the right thing. Although I hear it's still possible for people to get these medication for kids, and they can go abroad and do it. So, and the Americans are still doing it, and the Canadians, etc. The way I think of it is like this. People cannot bring themselves to admit that this is an evil ideology. Because if they did that, they'd have to admit that they've been complicit in the medicalization and the sterilization of children. For some people, that's their own children. Even in this country, it's either 24 or 25, they shut down the Tavistock Clinic and made it much more difficult in this country. But still, 2,000 kids have been medicated in this way. So if anybody was parroting this stuff in 2024 and 2025, then they're complicit. Let's give the last word to Germaine Greer.
Now, gender can be anything you like. It's entirely cultural. But unfortunately, sex is not entirely cultural. It's something you're born with, whether you like it or not. And most of us who grow up to be women, who have our first period, 12, 13, 14, whatever, traumatizing otherwise, a body we thought we knew becomes smelly and dirty and different. And then the boys come along who've been watching pornography and say that we're not groomed, we have to remove our body hair and so on. We're going to spend our lives removing body hair. That's femininity, which is the fake version of femaleness. Female is real and it's sex, and femininity is unreal and it's gender. And it's a role you play. And for that to become the given identity of women is a profoundly disabling notion.
Don't you feel that you'd be able to spend more time on all of those questions if you just moved on from this trans question and said, OK, fine, if you want to join us as women, then you're women. Come and join us in the bigger struggles.
I can't tell you how infuriating that comment makes me. Okay, if you're women, you're women. Let's just forget about the details. Let's just forget about the fact that these men now get to enter female-only spaces that feminists have fought a lifetime to secure for girls, whether that's changing rooms, toilets, centres for women that have been abused. Let's forget the fact that they're entering women's sports and thieving trophies from female athletes that have spent a lifetime training, and then a bloke who has decided that he's now wants to present himself as a female, who's like 400th in the world at something, now becomes number one in the female version. And it, by the way, just Google how many women have lost out on trophies to trans athletes. Let's forget that we've medicalized at least 2,000 people in this country, but it's still happening around the Western world. Let's forget that we've sterilized children, because kids that maybe would have otherwise, boys, for example, would have just grown up to be gay men, have been convinced or told, because kids trust adults, convinced or told that they were born in the wrong body and that they're the wrong gender, and that the answer to their problems and the trauma that they've experienced is to transition. And so we've given them puberty blockers, and then we put them on cross-sex hormones. He's saying, let's just ignore all that. And these women won't ignore all that. They're too courageous to do that. Most people are cowards. Most people I encounter on this topic are cowards. But for these feminists, and we don't even have to call them that. For these ladies, they're not cowards. They're the opposite. They're courageous.
Come and join us in the bigger struggles.
Well, they're not going to help us much with postpartum psychosis, are they? Or even with menstrual discomfort. Or, I think we can manage. You know, we are 51% of the population, and we're being held to ransom by a handful of people who are vocal and aggressive. And that's no surprise to any of us. I mean, I don't understand why we have to make a mockery of older women. And that's universal. You say to me, I'm offending people. Every time you get vilified because you're an old woman, and you only have to be 50, not very old. I'm now 80. I'm as old as you like. And you can call me senile and anything else you want to call me. But I'm not going to be hijacked for this question of sexual identity, of gender identity. Look, I wrote a book a long time ago about how you get made into a woman. In those days, we called it conditioning. And you could see it happens from birth. Little baby girls are left to cry for longer than baby boys. They are fed for shorter periods than baby boys. We want them to be smaller than baby boys, and so on and so on and so on. And it goes right through our entire lifespan where we're learning femininity. And it's a masquerade. It's not who we really are. There is nothing feminine about being pregnant. It's almost the antithesis of that. There's nothing feminine about giving birth. It's a bloody struggle, and you've got to be strong and brave. There's nothing feminine about breastfeeding. God knows it drives everybody mad. They want to see nice, big, pumped-up tits, but they don't want to see them doing their job. And it just goes on and on. That masquerade is what is now being presented to us back as the real deal. With the hair extensions and the false eyelashes. And you think, why do you think that's real?
I think my favourite part there was when she said, everyone wants big pumped up tits, but nobody wants them to actually do their job. What the point that she's making is that, and this is where the term woman face comes from, The idea that being female is simply a presentation, and like she says, the extended eyelashes and the hair extensions, completely shortcutting any of the pain that they go through in their experience. We've collectively lost our minds. We've collectively allowed the institutions to sell women out. And I get it, it's difficult if you're in a workplace where you can't talk about these things. It's difficult if you're part of one of the institutions, but what you can do is you can educate your own kids. And you don't even have to do it in a horrible way, you know. It's not about making people into enemies. That doesn't do anybody any good. But unfortunately in life, in order to stand up for what's right and to be able to think critically and have your own views and look at things and say, hang on a minute, there is going to be an element of discomfort. I thrive on that. I love it. It pumps me up. It gives me a reason to fight. It's a battle. It's a horrible one, and it's a fucking mental one. I can't believe sometimes I did a video earlier today about an interview that Madonna did in 1994, just because it was pure entertainment and nostalgic. And I look at that time and I think, and she's putting no effort whatsoever into being a goody two shoes and a virtue signaler, which is like impossible these days, where everyone wants to do. But unfortunately, we're way off track. We're way off track. And if you can see through this stuff, and you've got kids, all kids are impressionable. That you are the one that they will listen to the most. That's true. Even with your own parents when you were younger. Yes, it was always, okay, maybe you rebelled, but ultimately you always came back to mum and dad. They'll listen to you. Thank you for listening to me. Maybe you've just listened to everything that I've said and said, this guy is insane. Tell me below, comment, share, subscribe, like. If you agree, please tell me. It makes my day. I open YouTube, the YouTube Studio app, far too often, and I do enjoy perusing the comments, good or bad. Thanks for watching.